The alarm screams, your phone erupts in a cascade of notifications. The clock ticks faster, faster, faster until it becomes a frantic percussion that drowns out your thoughts. You know this feeling, don't you? That suffocating weight that settles on your chest every Sunday evening, the dread that crawls up your spine when you realize another week is about to devour you whole. Your time, that most precious resource, suddenly feels like it belongs to someone else. To your boss, to your obligations, to a future that demands constant sacrifice of your present. But here's what's truly unsettling. We live in the most convenient age in human history. We have machines that wash our clothes, cook our food, and deliver information at the speed of light. We have, theoretically, saved more time than any generation before us. So why? Why do we feel like we have less of it than ever? Why does time seem to accelerate as we age? Why do the endless summers of childhood shrink into the fleeting months of adulthood? Why do we measure our worth by our productivity, yet feel increasingly empty despite our achievements? There's something profoundly wrong with our relationship to time. We've built our entire civilization around the clock and the calendar, yet our inner experience rebels against this rigid structure. We feel rushed in an age of convenience, stressed in an era of unprecedented technological power. This isn't a personal failing. This tension you feel, this disconnect between clock time and lived experience, is a clue. It's pointing to something far more profound and unsettling than a simple scheduling problem. What if our fundamental understanding of time itself is not just incomplete, but actively harmful? What if the very concept we've organized our lives around is not a natural law, but a construction? A story we've told ourselves so convincingly that we've forgotten it's just a story. The anxiety you feel about time isn't irrational. It's your mind recognizing that something essential has been taken from you. The question is, what exactly was stolen, and how do we get it back? To understand why time feels like a prison, we must first understand that this prison was built by human hands. Our current relationship with time, this sense of being trapped in an unstoppable river flowing toward an inevitable deadline, is not a universal human experience. It's an invention. For most of human history, time was not a ruler, but a companion. Our ancestors lived by the rising and setting of the sun, the phases of the moon, the turning of seasons. Time was not an abstract container into which life was poured. Time was the rhythm of life itself. The harvest came when the grain was ready, not when the calendar demanded. Sleep followed the sun's retreat, not the alarm's command. This wasn't primitive thinking. It was profoundly sophisticated. These cultures understood something we have forgotten, that time is not separate from the events that fill it. The ancient Greeks gave us a crucial insight that we've almost entirely lost. They recognized two fundamentally different types of time, and they gave them names that reveal everything about our modern predicament. First, there was Chronos, sequential, quantitative time, one moment after another, measured and counted. The tick of the metronome, the march of minutes. Chronos is time as mathematics, time as resource, time as the relentless forward motion that powers clocks and schedules and deadlines. But the Greeks also knew Kairos, qualitative time, the right moment, the opportune instant. Kairos is the perfect moment to speak, to act, to create. It's the moment when lovers first lock eyes, when the artist's brush captures something eternal, when understanding suddenly crystallizes in the mind. Kairos is time experienced. Time is meaning rather than measurement. For the Greeks, both were real and both were necessary. But something happened in our history that changed everything. In the 13th and 14th centuries, European monasteries began installing mechanical clocks. This wasn't just a technological advancement, it was a philosophical revolution. For the first time in human history, time was separated from natural events and human activities. Time became mathematical, precise, and above all, independent of human experience. The mechanical clock didn't just measure time, it redefined it. Time was no longer the rhythm of life. Life became subject to the rhythm of the machine. Then came Isaac Newton, whose brilliant mind gave us the foundation for the modern world and the cage in which we now find ourselves trapped. Newton conceived of absolute, true, and mathematical time that flows equably without relation to anything external. Time, in Newton's universe, was like an invisible river flowing at a constant rate, carrying all events forward, whether we liked it or not. This was not merely a scientific theory, it was a new mythology. Newton's time was objective, universal, and utterly indifferent to human experience. It provided the philosophical foundation for the Industrial Revolution, for factory schedules, for the idea that time could be bought and sold like any other commodity. Time is money, we learned to say, not recognizing that we were speaking the words of our own imprisonment. But Newton's river was not eternal. In the early 20th century, a young patent clerk named Albert Einstein shattered the illusion of absolute time. Through his theories of relativity, Einstein revealed that time is not a universal constant, but depends entirely on the observer's speed and gravitational environment. Time stretches and contracts. It speeds up and slows down. It is not the river. It is relative, malleable, and mysterious. Einstein proved scientifically what the ancients knew intuitively. Time is not separate from experience. It is woven into the very fabric of reality in ways that our everyday thinking cannot comprehend. Yet here we are, living as if Newton's absolute time were still true, organizing our lives around a concept that science itself has revealed to be incomplete. We carry smartphones that depend on Einstein's corrections to GPS satellites, yet we live our days according to Newton's obsolete mythology. This is the source of our discomfort. We are biological beings with fluid, emotional, relative experience, trying to conform to the rigid demands of mechanical, absolute time. Whew. The clock on the wall is not measuring time, it's imposing a particular story about time, a story that has forgotten the deeper truth of what time actually is. But what is time really, if not the mechanical tick we've grown so familiar with? To answer this question, we must look not outward to physics or history, but inward to the most sophisticated time machine ever created, the human mind. Here's something that will unsettle you. There is no time organ in your brain. Unlike sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell, which each have dedicated neural hardware, time perception emerges from the complex interaction of memory, attention, and emotion distributed across your entire nervous system. Time, as you experience it, is not sensed, but constructed. Consider what this means. Every moment you experience as now is actually a sophisticated mental construction. The present moment, this very instant as you process these words, exists only in your consciousness. Physically, by the time light reaches your eyes and neural signals reach your brain, the moment has already passed. You are always living in the immediate past, but your mind creates the vivid illusion of a continuous present. St. Augustine understood this mystery 16 centuries ago when he wrote, "What then is time? If no one asks me, I know. If I wish to explain it to one who asks, I know not." Augustine realized that we experience only the present, but we construct our sense of time through memory of the past and expectation of the future. Time, he suggested, exists not in the world, but in the mind. Modern neuroscience has confirmed Augustine's intuition in startling ways. Your brain doesn't record time like a clock records seconds. Instead, it constructs temporal experience from the richness and emotional intensity of memory formation. This is why time perception varies so dramatically based on what's happening in your inner world.
When you're terrified during a car accident or a moment of physical danger, time appears to slowly slow to a crawl. Your brain, flooded with adrenaline and heightened attention, records far more detailed memories than usual. When you recall the event, this richness of detail creates the illusion that more time passed than actually did. Time didn't slow down, your consciousness expanded to contain more information per unit of clock time. The opposite happens during routine, emotionally flat experiences. When you're bored or going through the motions of familiar activities, your brain conserves energy by recording fewer detailed memories. Days, weeks, even months can blur together into a forgettable haze. Clock time passes normally, but experiential time, the time that feels real to you, contracts to almost nothing. This explains the mystery of aging and time acceleration. As a child, almost everything was new, challenging, emotionally significant. Your brain was constantly forming rich, detailed memories. Summer vacation felt eternal because it was packed with novel experiences and intense emotions. But as an adult, more and more of life becomes routine. You drive the same route to work, perform similar tasks, fall into predictable patterns. Your brain, optimizing for efficiency, forms fewer detailed memories. Months pass like days once did. But there's something even more profound happening here. When you're deeply engaged, lost in meaningful work, absorbed in conversation with someone you love, fully present to a piece of music or a work of art, time seems to disappear entirely. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi called this flow state, and it reveals something crucial about the nature of temporal experience. In flow, the constructed nature of time becomes apparent. The anxious mental chatter about past and future falls away. The mechanical ticking of Chronos becomes irrelevant. You enter Kairos, not the time of the clock, but the time of meaning, of presence, of being fully alive in the moment. Your brain in flow produces different patterns of neural activity. The default mode network, the mental machinery responsible for self-referential thinking and temporal projection, quiets down. The prefrontal cortex, normally busy with planning and judgment, relaxes its grip on consciousness. What emerges is a direct encounter with experience itself, unmediated by the usual mental constructions of past and future. This neurochemistry reveals something extraordinary. The sense of linear time that dominates most of our waking life is not inevitable. It's one possible configuration of consciousness among many. When your brain shifts into flow states, it literally experiences time differently. Not as a series of discrete moments flowing from past to future, but as an eternal, expanded present. The implications are staggering. If time perception is constructed by consciousness, and if consciousness can be altered through attention and engagement, then our relationship with time is far more plastic than we've been taught to believe. The prison of linear time has no walls except the ones we've learned to see. But recognizing this plasticity only makes our modern predicament more troubling. If we have the capacity for rich, expanded, meaningful temporal experience, why do so many of us feel trapped in a mechanical rhythm that drains life of its depth? The answer lies not in neuroscience or philosophy, but in understanding how our natural capacity for Kairos has been systematically colonized by forces that profit from keeping us trapped in Chronos.
Newton's absolute time didn't remain a theoretical concept. It became the foundation of the modern economy. Time is money transformed from metaphor to literal business model. The factory floor demanded that human beings synchronize their biological rhythms to the mechanical rhythm of industrial production. Clock time became the measure of human worth. But what we're experiencing today is not just industrial time management. It's something far more sinister and sophisticated. Our attention itself has become the commodity being harvested, processed, and sold. Consider the device in your pocket. Every element of its design has been engineered to fragment your attention and disrupt your natural relationship with time. The notification system doesn't respect your biological rhythms or your need for sustained focus. It operates according to the logic of the attention economy. Interrupt as frequently as possible to maximize engagement, a corporate euphemism for addiction. The infinite scroll eliminates natural stopping points. Traditional media had clear boundaries: the end of a newspaper, the conclusion of a television program, the final page of a book. These boundaries allowed for reflection, for the mind to rest and integrate experience. Digital media deliberately removes these boundaries, creating a temporal void where hours can vanish without leaving a trace in memory. This is weaponized Chronos, time as a tool of control rather than a natural rhythm. Every ping, every buzz, every red notification badge is designed to pull you out of whatever Kairos moment you might have been entering. Deep focus becomes nearly impossible. Sustained attention, the very capacity that allows for rich memory formation and expanded temporal experience, atrophies from disuse. The business model is explicit. Technology companies sell your present moment to advertisers. Your attention right now, in this second, is being auctioned off to the highest bidder. The goal is to keep you scrolling, clicking, consuming, never quite satisfied, never quite present, always anticipating the next hit of digital stimulation. But the colonization goes deeper than technology. Our entire economic system now depends on what sociologist Hartmut Rosa calls social acceleration. The constant demand for faster production, faster consumption, faster innovation. We're expected to respond to emails immediately, to be constantly available, to optimize every aspect of our lives for maximum efficiency. This creates what researcher Brené Brown identifies as the core of modern burnout. We're trying to live up to the productivity standards of machines while inhabiting the limited biological bodies of human beings.
we attempt to transform ourselves into optimized systems, forgetting that our humanity, our capacity for creativity, relationship, meaning, emerges from accepting our natural rhythms, not overriding them. The psychological cost is enormous. We live in a perpetual state of temporal displacement. Social media forces us to compare our ordinary present with the curated highlights of others' pasts. We see carefully edited versions of experiences we weren't part of and feel inadequate about the unfiltered reality of our own lives. Simultaneously, we're taught to sacrifice our present for an eternally deferred future. Work harder now for retirement. Save money now for someday. Optimize your body now for longevity. The present moment becomes merely a stepping stone to a hypothetical future that, when it arrives, will demand further sacrifice for the next hypothetical future. We end up living everywhere but here, every when but now.
The tragic irony is that this system promises to give us more time, more efficiency, more productivity, more convenience, while systematically destroying our capacity to experience time deeply. We gain hours and lose presence. We save minutes and sacrifice meaning. This is not a personal failing. This is not about individual time management or productivity hacks. This is about recognizing that our most intimate experience, our sense of time, our relationship with the present moment, has been colonized by systems that profit from our distraction and our disconnection from our own lives. The question is no longer, what is time, but who controls your experience of time, and how can you reclaim it? We began this journey with a simple anxiety, the suffocating feeling that time controls us rather than the other way around. We've traveled through history and neuroscience, through philosophy and economics, to arrive at a startling conclusion. Time, as we experience it, is not a fixed feature of reality, but a story we tell ourselves. And like any story, it can be rewritten. The prison is not the clock on the wall. The prison is our unquestioning belief in the clock's absolute authority over our experience of being alive. Newton's absolute time was useful for building the modern world, but it was never the complete truth about temporal reality. Einstein showed us that time is relative to the observer. Neuroscience reveals that time is constructed by consciousness. The ancients knew that Kairos, meaningful, qualitative time, is as real as Chronos, and perhaps more important for human flourishing. Our modern suffering around time comes from a category error. We've confused the map with the territory, the measurement with the experience, the clock with time itself. Reclaiming your relationship with time is not about better time management. That reinforces the tyranny of Chronos. It's about attention management, about deliberately cultivating your capacity for presence, depth, and meaning. Every moment you spend in deep focus is an act of rebellion against the attention economy. Every conversation where you listen fully instead of waiting for your turn to speak. Every walk where you notice the light filtering through leaves instead of planning tomorrow's tasks. Every creative act where you lose yourself so completely that hours pass like minutes. These are not luxuries or self-indulgences. They are essential practices for reclaiming your humanity in a world designed to fragment your attention and commodify your consciousness. The paradox is beautiful. By stepping out of linear time, by entering Kairos, you don't lose time, you gain it. You discover that time can be deep instead of just long, rich instead of just rapid, meaningful instead of just
measured. The clock will continue ticking. The digital notifications will continue pinging. The modern world will continue demanding that you synchronize your soul to its mechanical rhythm. But now you know the secret. You have a choice. The clock will always measure the duration of your life, but only you can determine its depth. The question is not, what is time? The question is, what will you do with the time that is yours?